Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC. First time that we're doing this show on the brand new channel, so if you've come across this accidentally, please subscribe. We get loads of views on the main account, so please start tuning into this account as well. We've got loads of things planned for this account as well. Full house tonight. We've got Jack joining us in about half an hour's time, but at the moment we've got Natalie. How you doing, Nat?
I'm doing good, John. Happy to be on the channel, like making a full debut.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Vicky in the comments already. Hello, Vicky. Obviously, this is a new channel, so we've not got the same amount of people on as we usually do. So please promote it, retweet it on Twitter, and all this kind of stuff until people learn that there's actually a Friday night show as well. Atano, how you keeping, mate?
Hi, John. I am good.
Thanks for coming back, mate. Really enjoyed our chat was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, so yeah, it's gone quickly already. Faddy, nice to finally meet you, mate. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Thanks for inviting me. I know you've probably only heard my voice, if at all you've been on my podcast, but here you are. That's the face. And unfortunately, that's the kit I'm wearing for this. So deal with it, I suppose.
Well, maybe that'll come up through the conversation somewhere.
Yeah.
Zoe, how you keeping, bud? You okay?
Yeah, good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. End of the week. I've got work tomorrow, then I got Sunday off. So let's get through tomorrow, and then I can chill out a little bit. That's what I'm saying. Hello to the two Johns in the comments, Karen, Vicky, all good. So the idea of this show, if you didn't see the trial show on a Twitter Live last week, it's all about fans coming on to discuss what they want to talk about. So I'll kind of describe it as a little bit like one of those radio shows where you used to ring in and talk about whatever you want to talk about to the presenter and obviously just speak your mind, really. So we'll spend roughly about 10 minutes on each topic because there will be 6 of us and we'll go from there. So I'm going to start off. I know we covered it a lot yesterday, but I want to talk a little bit more detail about if the amount of players who are going to leave this club is correct to what the rumours are, then can we actually... Is it just too much of a big ask? So potentially 6 players leaving, possibly 10 from what different people are saying, different sources are saying, and all 10 players. It's not just like we don't just pluck these names out of mid-air. These are actually players who are linked or out of contract, and I'll name them shortly. But for me, if even 6 players leaves, that's a big ask to get maybe 5 players in with better quality. And maybe promoted there. If I'm thinking we don't need necessarily 6 players coming in or 10 players coming in, we can promote maybe 1 or 2 as well. But to me, that's still a massive ask. So start off with the defenders, potentially like 4 defenders leaving, or 3 defenders, I think it is. That to me is just massive, and I just can't get my head around what the club is thinking, because if we do lose these 3 defenders, it's just too much of a big hit, and I can't imagine us getting 3 better quality players, better quality defenders in, especially with our manager. I don't know, the manager doesn't necessarily mean too much of a thing. But yeah, so that's the midfielders. Attackers, we know Tobin and Christian are probably going to go. We know LJ is going to go. It looks like Jess is going to go. That's 4 attackers. So not only do we need to bring in 3 top class defenders, we now got to bring in 4 attackers who are going to be better than Press, Heath, Jess and LJ. I'm a bit worried about that, if I'm honest. And then obviously you got like goalkeeper as well is potentially going to go. Jane Ross, I forgot to mention Jane Ross under contract, but she's come out and said that she wants to look in Italy. That's 5 attackers. So I'm left with Fuso and Russo. Not had much game time this season. I'm basically just stressing, guys, everybody in the comments, that I'm a little bit worried here. So it's not that easy. Nat, do you want to just touch on that one? What your thoughts are on so many outs?
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I think when we look at the attackers, Jess, Jane, Tobin and Kristen were playing. LJ didn't play much, but like they were like, LJ will be the biggest loss, but Jess and Jane, they weren't really playing much either. But it's just like you're losing your best forwards in a way, and then you're losing those backup ones. Yeah. I mean, there will be devs coming through. We know about Carrie Jones, but then she needs to play. She needs to play to get her experience. I mean, Carrie Jones might go on loan. So then that's losing another one. And we need a deep squad. That was our issue. Not having our first team was good enough, but we didn't have the backup to basically when they play, like when Russo got injured, there was no one there to score goals. So you're looking at getting in at least 2 number 9s or a number 9 hybrid kind of thing. Russo's that maybe the kind of hybrid, can play up front, can play in the wing, can play pretty much everywhere. Tooney could play up front a bit. I know we're going to talk about Tooney, but it's putting a lot on the players, and especially, like you said, defence. For me, if we lose Amy T, and I wouldn't get rid of Smithy. Smithy's a good backup. Add someone in. Yes, Martha, maybe she come as far as you can, but add someone in. Don't let Smithy go. Offer just 1 year and a half, year with an option. But obviously it's up to her. She might think this and that. But for me, I think Smithy and Honor are settled. And if you then say bring in someone else, yeah, she might not play. But Amy T was told you're not going to play because Abby's coming in. And then she's won it back, and then she's the best defender. So how much do you believe in yourself? If Smithy wants to go because she might be told, oh, you this and that. No, I can't see it. I think Smithy loves this club, but I don't know what she's been told. I don't know what she's thinking. She might be thinking, I want to play like every game. I'm good enough, or if I go to like a Villa, I'll play every game or something like that. Yeah, you will, but you can come and win something here. I'm still quietly confident on Amy T and Smithy, though. I am still quietly confident that they'll stay, but who knows?
Do you want to jump in on that one, Zoe? Because I know obviously you're all big fans of some of these originals. You've obviously seen them for a long time. Do you kind of agree with what Natalie just said there?
Yeah. I'm worried, and I've been ever since AC announced that she was leaving. And I think there was a lot of fans that were still like, oh no, it's going to be fine. We're going to still progress, and they're still expecting us to get 4th or higher next season, maybe win a cup. And I think it's just, as time goes on, it's becoming more evident that, I love people's optimism, and I'm usually an optimistic person, but I am worried by the people that we're losing. As you say, some of those originals, and I know, there's a little bit of sentiment involved with all of us on that one, and that's something that we need to put aside for the sake of winning. But, we're losing some top quality players, and without a manager, and okay, yeah, we might have one behind the scenes or whatever, but with the comments that have come out about the reasons why Casey might have left, who wants to come to this club? Who is going to want? Casey was a big draw for a lot of players. A lot of players have said, I came to this club because of Casey Stoney. So, one, we need to know who else is going to be in charge. But with her having these issues within the club, and, the conditions don't appear to be the best for our players, which really upsets me because we are so close to our players and we care about them greatly. We want the best for them. Those conditions are not attractive to world-class players. So you're left with just the badge, which I know means a lot to all of us. But how much does that mean to a world-class player who wants to win trophies, who wants to progress as a player and as a teammate, and who wants to stay fit and healthy? Because fitness has been an issue for us, probably because of our facilities. So, it really worries me about who's going and who we're going to be able to get back in to replace those. Obviously, I've got that sentiment. I was really gutted to hear that Jess was leaving. And I know she hasn't played lots for us this season, but she has talent. She does. And I think sometimes she's lost a little bit of confidence here and there and not put chances away. But, I'd love for her to stay at the club a bit longer. And, of course, LJ, we spoke about LJ a lot before, and she's going to be one of the best players in the world, if not the best, at some point. And I'd really like to say that she was still ours at that point.
If I can just add to that as well, you did mention about Jess is a great talent. I agree. It reminds me of Amber's video that she put on. I think she put it on today, just talking about Martha Harris. So I appreciate that, like, Martha might not be a first teamer. I appreciate Jess might not be a first teamer, but as a squad player, there's probably not too many strikers out there. If Jess is like 4th or 5th choice, for example, there's not going to be many better 4th or 5th choice strikers in the WSL. Now, I agree we've got to move on, and maybe Jess as a starting 11 now she's not going to push us on. But sometimes you just got to think to yourself that can we get anyone better than her that's going to be happy to maybe be fourth or fifth choice? But I don't know. I guess we'll see. I think it's going to be a little while yet until we get a team as deep and as world class as we'd like. Does anybody else want to jump on this point before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I was just listening, and to me, as an outsider looking in, I mean, there are a couple of key points that I think both Zoe and Natalie made about, the transfer business and, people going out. So I think it's always going to be tough when there's no manager in place right now. So, that's going to be key, getting that in first, because then players kind of make their decisions based on who they're going to be playing under. Of course, then there's that old saying, which is there's no such thing as bad publicity. But I would say that this is exactly bad publicity. You don't want your team to be known for having such poor facilities, and no player wants to hear that about the club that they're joining. Yes, so things like that. And I was reading some of the comments, and one of the key comments that one of the comments that I read was, I think in women's football, one of the key characteristics is that there's a lot of turnover with women in teams. So there's a lot of change with women players being in one team one season, then changing to another team, and so we see that. So the market is such that I feel like there are a lot of players out there that may not have performed in the past, but you could have a manager who could tap their untapped potential in a way. Have them come if they join Manchester United, then they reach their true potential. You have people like that. So in terms of, I know like for Manchester United losing key players, especially the Americans who are, we've heard a lot about them wanting to go back home, and that's going to create a lot of issues with different teams. But I think in terms of the pool, there are a lot of players because of this turnover, because people are leaving clubs from all over, whether it be from WSL, even from the lower division, like the women's championship. You could find a hidden gem in there and then manage on that. But it's going to be interesting whichever way. But for me, I think the key is to get that manager in as early as possible, because that just helps any sort of process going in. Players don't want to go in and then realize that the manager that they're playing under really doesn't rate them. So that's going to be key.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a comment on screen by Vicky saying that we brought in 6 players and it transformed us. Absolutely. And I'd love to be in that position again where we can get 6 players who's going to improve us. And I still think we can, don't get me wrong. I just think it's just a big risk, that amount of players, and with getting a new manager in, playing a new playing style as well. I think there's just a lot going on at the moment, and it's kind of sinking in a little bit now where we start hearing these rumours who are leaving. It's just so much going on, isn't there? Atano, let me bring you in. What's your topic, mate?
Yeah, I've thought of discussing about how strikers have lacked in goals this season. If we see the United top scorers this season, they have been Tooney, Galton, and Hansen, the top 3 goal scorers, and there's no striker in that. So that actually worries me sometimes, because when I saw the game against West Ham, the first game against West Ham, when we won 4-2, we saw how good Alessia Russo was. And, that was sort of a trailer of what we were expecting. Ever since her injury, I think, Tobin Heath and Kristen Press have played well. And Leah Galton has also played well. So that has shadowed the issues that we have with our front line. Initially, like, Kristen Press came to the club, and when we make a transition from one country to another country, it's always difficult to adjust to it. So that was clearly visible with Kristen Press Kristen Press's performance initially, but over a period of time, she has improved herself and fired all guns. So it took her some time to adjust to the FAWSL after making the transition from NWSL. So, and the injury to Russo, of course, has created a lot of problems. So I think United needs some forwards this transfer window We need a winger and we need a striker. We need a striker for sure. Like I liked what Zoe said, that even though Sigsworth, doesn't get more chances a lot, and she's low on confidence, but I remember one game, the Arsenal game, where she assisted Tooney's goal. So that was one, something brilliant that I watched, and I think losing out on players like Sigsworth and maybe Jane Ross. Jane Ross has performed well. I like towards the end of the season she started playing well. Initially she played well, but in the middle she didn't get many chances, so she couldn't play well. So I think a striker has to be signed this season, because we can't only depend on Russo and Jane Ross if she stays. Sigsworth is leaving, and Fuso, I think we haven't seen what we were expecting from Fuso due to injuries. And I'm a bit skeptical about Fuso because I haven't seen her play much. But let's see what happens next in the transfer window. It's all about getting new players in, and like Brady said, that first of all we need a manager who who has a who knows how to progress in this club. So I think the strikers not firing all guns this season has actually put things into perspective for the transfer window, that we need to get a forward this season.
100%.
Yeah, well, Nata does comment about Beth England, so I imagine Beth England, Russo and Galton. We spoke a little bit about it last night, but strikers, we have been a little bit disappointed, haven't we, this season? And it's unfortunate because I think our midfielders, I think we could say that Jackie and Tooney are players of the season contenders, but strikers, no, it's kind of let us down a little bit, haven't they, this season? Well, last season.
Yeah, but I think it's been an issue for a while. I mean, we brought in Jane Ross. She didn't really do much last year. I mean, no offence I love Jess, but potentially we're hearing she going to Leicester. Maybe that's the sort of level. And I saw Josh's comment about losing players and we've got to be patient. And I do think, but I think we were sold this dream. We're Man United. We're coming in here. We're doing this.
Yeah.
And we've just not lived up to expectations of it. And I'm seeing Ifa, speak to him, and Ifa Al, speak to him a lot. And I know the Spanish league is different from our league, but Real Madrid, 2 seasons they're in, and Juventus, 4 seasons, won back-to-back, unbeaten. And I just think you can do it. You can, those leagues are different, but you can put effort in and get there and do it. And I think we are there. For me, I see us as practically third. I know, listen, Arsenal are good. Arsenal got that experience, but if we hadn't had these injuries, we would have been third. If we hadn't cocked up a lot of games, we would have been third. So I think it's there with just that, with what we've got. Still championship players, really. It's just the new manager, like I said, are they going to still get the best out of your Leahs, your Hansons, your Tooneys, and that's what worries me. Are they going to get the best out of Amy T and Millie Turner? And I saw a comment about Yana Daniels, and that's no from me. That's a no from me. Even though Millie hasn't been up to a standard, that's a no from me. But yeah, there are managers popping about, and a new manager might bring a new fresh style, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm going to say something. Oh, sorry, you go.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I can wait.
I'm going to say something really bold going on from what you said, Nat, and say I truly believe that if Heath, Russo, and Galton had stayed fit through the whole season, we'd have won the league.
I agree.
100%.
I agree.
The league.
100%.
They've got so much quality. But yeah, I think that's it. The injuries have been what killed our season, and I think that's a huge part of why Casey's gone and and said what she did about the facilities and stuff, because clearly they've not been up to scratch, and that's caused fitness issues, and then we've gone and blown our season really. But yeah, I honestly believe we would have won, but that might just be a bold statement.
No, I agree totally. I think a lot of people will.
Go on, Sandy.
Now, I was just after that. I was just very tempted to kind of say it's quite ironic that Manchester United fans are talking about injuries and their season going wrong. But then I realized I'm in the women's conversations. Shouldn't be talking about that. But No, the one thing I wanted to talk was with regards to Atanu's point about the like Christian Press, and obviously Tobin Heath was injured, but Christian Press taking time to adapt to the English style of play. But we see it with some of these, especially the American players, that by the time they get adapted, they find themselves going back home. And I just wanted to know how frustrating is that, because it could easily be that Tobin Heath and Christian Press decide that, okay, I think we've used Manchester United as a good summer training camp, and we just want to go back to the US. So that's always a very concerning part, and especially, I don't know, I'm just seeing it off late when it comes to the Americans, because they have the NWSL going there, and they have some really good teams there. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that as well, as to how sort of frustrating that could be.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's, I think as well, we sort of thought they might stay. I think there was, let's just say, I've heard that they would have stayed if we got Champions League, but then obviously Casey's gone, so who knows? But yeah, it's frustrating because you build your season around them, and it feels like we've sort of built Kristen up into a good form. She didn't really start well, but she's ended well, and you think, well, next season, what you would have done, and
yeah.
I'm not saying that she's not a good player. I know a lot of people got upset when I said that on Twitter, but it is true. She didn't start well, and now she's playing well, and you think, oh, next season, and you think, no, she's gone. And then it goes back to the point about, even though it's not on the same level, but it's like the instability of women's football. How are you supposed to build anything if it's just 1 year? And this is where I come back to my feelings. I felt like basically we would have done a lot better. I thought we've come into change again. That's the narrative that we were fed at the start. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. Because why are you bringing it back? Just to sort of settle. That's how it sort of feels at the minute. When I say bringing it back, I mean the women's team.
Yeah. No, I see, as a Liverpool fan, okay, watching the United women's team, grow in such a meteoric rise, from the championship to get to the WSL, whereas we've kind of retarded and gone backwards. So we were WSL champions 7, 8 years ago, and then now we're struggling in the championship. We can't even be the likes of whoever the teams are down there, like Leicester and Durham and all those people. So to see United do that, I was really upset, because you want your own team to do well, but at the same time, I suppose it's looking at them as a sort of blueprint, and saying, okay, look at the investment and look at the rewards that they've reaped because of that. At one point, I know we've had that conversation with Nat when I had you on my podcast, where we talked about United potentially challenging for the title. At that point of time, you were ahead, and you were playing Chelsea at that point for the top spot. And so to see something like that, it was really in a way inspiring, but at the same time I hated it. So yeah, I mean, now to see what's going on around the scenes, and I mean, especially the facilities and stuff like that. I know you mentioned about there needs to be a manager who can come and get those players, but more important is that there's not going to be much change if there's no change at the top. People need to make the facilities good enough for players and everyone else. The ecosystem needs to change as a whole. And so even if a good manager comes in, she's going to have he or she'll have his or her hands tied, because they won't have anything to do with. And so either you need to have a manager who is so strong and so opinionated that they have such a strong say against the board. They can say to the board or the Glazers, say, listen, I'm only going to come in if you want me. You're going to make XX changes. You've got to get the facilities right. You've got to do that. So I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'm saying, like, someone like Emma Hayes, who's got such a standing at women's football, or someone like, I guess I don't want to say Manchester City's manager, because I know that you get even more hate. But I'm just saying someone who's done so well in women's football, who's probably got a sort of experience that can, the Glazers have to listen to if they want to get it right. And so, that's the main thing, that you can get the best of managers and they might get the best of players, but at the end, if the facilities aren't great, I mean, there's no point in doing anything.
100%.
I'd like to jump on that. I thoroughly agree with what you've said, but I also think that Casey kind of had that aura about her anyway, and if she couldn't get what she wanted, then it makes you wonder, well, who else can? Now, I agree it's a bit of a bargaining tool, so I think it will work in the next manager's favour because they can come in and say, look, I want it on paper that this, and this will get done or whatever, and I do think that it will gradually move forward, probably not as quick as we wanted to, but I'll still go back to the fact that Casey, we spoke about Zoe on this show before, had that she was kind of like the Sir Alex Ferguson of the women's football because she was the only one that we know, and I think that she'd been successful if she couldn't get what she wanted, and she was getting quite confident as well towards the start of that third season. I think she was actually getting really confident and not cocky, but I think she could. You can see in her interviews. I think she was getting a lot more, realizing I'm a Man United here and I can say what I want to say. Usually against the referees, but. And she was getting all that confidence and she still couldn't do it. So, but yeah, I think that's a great point. Zoe, let's move on to your topic, mate.
I was just laughing there to myself because I was thinking we need like a pantomime boo whenever Freddie mentions Liverpool.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
My topic is Tooney, and of course we've seen in the last few days that she's been called up to play in the Olympics, I think on the reserves list, but still that is some achievement, and it took me a couple of days to really let that sink in, I guess, and what that means for her, for United, and I just, it got me thinking, like, I've been harsh on Tooney in the past, over these past few years. And sometimes, I've said, she's a bit of a selfish player. She needs to pass more. She needs to look up. She needs to think about options a little bit more. And I think I've been so harsh on her because I can see her potential. I can see that, she could have a really long career, hopefully with us again. She's a really talented player. And I think, in a lot of ways she's proved that this year. There's still been times where I've been shouting at the screen for, you should have passed that instead of, hitting it wide or over the top or whatever. But on the whole, she's been really solid for us. And if you think again about her age, she's still a really young player. She's still got a lot of time to grow and develop. And again, I guess it comes back to Nat's point about, we need a manager that's going to get the best out of players like Tooney because, players like Tooney need a certain management style, I think. We've seen her get sent off for sort of lashing out as well. She needs somebody who can guide her with that kind of thing, keep a temper in check kind of thing. These young players, and again, people like Leah Galton we spoke about before, they do need a certain management style, but Tooney's at that point now where, she's come on in leaps and bounds in the last year. And again, I think, this camp is going to be, going to the Olympics is going to be really crucial for her development, and she's really going to improve and succeed over the coming over summer. I think she'll improve, and then next season we're going to reap the benefits of that, I guess. But I'm just really proud and pleased for her that she's still so young, and she's up there with the best players in Great Britain, and it's just. Yeah, I was thinking about that today, and I was getting a little bit emotional, because we've seen her these past few years, and we've just seen that progress, and it's just amazing to see. It wasn't really it was just something that I thought, we need to sort of praise our players, lift them up when they do something like that, because it's a massive achievement for us. So.
I'm going to bring Jack in. He just come, so I know he'll want to have a bit of a word on Tooney. But Atanu, do you want to talk a little bit about your thoughts on Tooney this season?
Yeah, definitely. Tony has been pretty, firing all guns this season. Maybe a bit more clinical in the front would have, fetched her around 15 to 20 goals. But uh, like for me, her best game this season was against Tottenham during the last few weeks of WSL and the Arsenal game. That Arsenal game actually, I like till 83rd minute, I was like, am I wasting my time? And then Sigsworth assist to Tooney, and we saw a 1-0 win against Arsenal. So
Hmm.
I mean, with the arrival of Heath and Press, maybe Tooney has inculcated some of the few attributes that they have, and I think she is the most improved player this season with regard to the last season. So yeah, I mean, people talk about her being the future star, but for me, she is the present star. And building the team around Tooney would actually, for the new manager, would actually help the team a lot because for me, Tooney at the attacking midfielder at the number 10 position is her best position in according to me.
Jack, thank you for coming on, mate. How you keeping? You okay?
Yeah, you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. We're almost halfway through the show. Jack, we spoke a little bit privately about Tooney. Obviously, pros and cons, still a work in progress, but she has had a good season compared to a lot of the United players. But what are your thoughts on Tooney?
Yeah, I think I've come in at a good time.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, she's like the stats support the fact that she's been either our best player or one of our best players. Goal scoring, involved, and that's to her credit. And going back to what Atana was saying about the Arsenal game, that was probably the highlight of the season for me. It was, finally beating a top 3 side, and it was a game where we really, I think we dominated Arsenal in the game, and we just were lacking that one moment for it to go in, and she got that moment. So for all intents and purposes, she got our moment of the season. And so nothing but joy in that moment, and her going to possibly going to the Olympics and representing and going up to the top level of international football. I'm happy for her. As United fans, we had a bit of a discussion about this in the group that we kind of, or at least some of us, most of us, see United before see the club before internationals. So selfishly, we'd want our players fit and ready for the start of next season. But with that said, I know that Tooney and most, if not all, players want to play at that top level, and therefore I'm happy for her to go and hopefully do her best and make herself, her family, her friends, us, and the country or the nation proud. With that said, I'm maybe not the most ecstatic Tooney fan. That's not to say that I don't support her. When she's doing well, I want to see United players doing well. It doesn't matter to me what your name is. If you're doing well for the club, I'm happy. I think at times, though, this season, she's maybe been a bit selfish with her decision making. She's shot a lot. I'll put it that way. I'd love to know. I've not checked this. We need a stats person. I'd love to know how many shots she's taken, and also compare that to the rest of the team. That is not necessarily a bad thing, because that means she trusts her ability, and she is brave enough to take that shot. And sometimes I think that this season, some of our players have been lacking in that confidence and also in the execution. So it's a positive, but it needs to be, as Zoe mentioned, managed correctly. She's still a young player, so she's still got room for improvement. She's still, it's still early days, but I'd like to see her involve her teammates a bit more. And I think that's the issue that, when you talk about her as potentially a divisive player, I think that's maybe some of the issues that maybe people have with her, where she doesn't necessarily look to pass as a first option. She'll look to shoot as a first option, even from angles and distances that you wouldn't really think that she would try from. And sometimes her technique is a bit lacking, but then you can speak about the technique of a lot of the players that has been lacking over the course of the season. So she's not unique with that, but sometimes she'll hit a ball too soft, whether it's passing or shooting. Sometimes it will go sky, west, and crooked. But again, those are issues that a lot of the players have. But because she is one of the central players that you expect to be that driving force, and I do agree, her best position is probably that. I would even call it second striker rather than attacking midfielder, like at 10. I know that there's like a mild difference in terms of how you talk about that. But when I think about her, I think like maybe she's kind of like Rooney, like that she maybe come from deep and score goals, get in the penalty area, score goals. And that we were calling out for, I suppose now 2 seasons ago rather than last season, before the pandemic went in. We were calling for someone to come from that second line and score, because I think Jackie was playing that role in her first season when she came. And sadly, Jackie isn't much of a goal threat, or hasn't been much of a goal threat so far, and we needed that coming from second line. So I think that is her best position, but I want to see more control from her, better decision-making, better execution. I mean, again, when she turns it on, when she's on song, she gives you the goal against Arsenal. And what was it? I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Tottenham. I can't remember. But the amazing, like probably one of our goals of the season, when Kristen crossed the ball and she just hit it the first time. Who was it? Sorry.
Was it when she was in the box and she kind of hit it like on the half volley?
Yeah, like she first time hit it, went straight in the corner.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was against. It was one of the last couple of games this season, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, she is obviously capable. It's just about getting it right more often than not, and that is what separates a good player from a top player. And I go back to thinking again. I come from the men's game. Nani. If that name rings a bell for anyone, he had a lot of those moments where he showed skill and class, and statistics of his were quite good, but he was such a frustrating player to watch sometimes. And I think at the moment, Tooney falls under that bracket. We want it to be Rooney rather than Nani. All due respect to Nani, I love you.
What I want to say just about Tooney, she's 21 years old. Whereas she's been our top goal scorer. And you look at someone like Tobin, I know she got injured, but we're looking at her, if you say that Tobin's like Rooney all the time, she bangs. Even Tobin has a little frustration part, but I think I saw Vicky saying it's experience, that's all it is. And last season, I think Casey should have played her more. There was points where I think You know, she was scoring 5 goals versus Leicester, and then she was taking off and putting Jackie in the middle, and it was against games like Bristol. And I'm thinking, why is the Tooney starting this? And the same issue Ebony had, and she never got brought on, and then she had to go out on loan. And obviously, like last season, got cancelled. But a lot of the times, Tooney used to come on and change the game. Bristol, I remember. West Ham, I remember. Even Chelsea. I know we lost all those games, but you know, West Ham, she settled the assist that Lauren scored, and we were ahead, and we all know we threw that one away. But you know, that's not down to her. I think it'll come with Tooney. I think each year we've seen her get better. I think I get where Jack's coming from. You wanted to do it. You wanted to do it all the time. You know, I remember the Arsenal game this season. She didn't do it, but it's like we're looking at her more than we're looking at a 31-year-old Kristen Press, 2-time World Cup winner. And I don't like to bash anyone, but if we're going to say Tooney's not doing it, 31-year-old World Cup winner, that's what she was brought into to do it. There's no, I'm not saying excuse, but there's no excuse. But I felt like a lot of excuses were made for some players, but not for others. And Tooney's one that didn't get sort of the respect that she deserves. Not from you, Jax. I know we always, but I just feel like from certain people, there's not that respect for her. She pisses me off, Tooney, sometimes. And I'll tell her. And LJ pisses me off, and I'll tell him. And, you know, I'm not going to praise when they're rubbish, but most of the time she was decent. And she was the one that was scoring the goals. So like we said, the Everton game, she scored the goal. She didn't score it. I even look back to the Reading game, but she was in that. She hit the post, but she was in those positions to get those chances. And I'm looking at, not in a whole way, Ross, Jess, these are names that we're talking about going, and they've not done it. And, you know, we need, Katie sort of talked when she was our manager, she talked about experience. We need experience that people know how to win. So Tobin, Kristen was one. Kristen, obviously, it took a while, but Tobin was just there doing it, and that's the kind of player we need now. If we're real serious, you'd say, we need a player who's always going to score, we're not looking at Tooney to sort of do it. Tooney will do it, and I think Tooney will be that player. She's 21, and it'll come. And, you know, while we're waiting for it to come, which I think she'll be even better next year, you know, I think she'll get double figures again. While we're waiting for it, we need someone next to her that's going to help her. I think Leslie was helping her a lot. When her and Leslie were doing it, it was on fire. It was on fire more than Tobin, you know. Her and Leslie were cruising. Her, Leslie and Hanson at the start, it was amazing. It was like, what Americans? Yeah. So I think it's there, but it just needs more. They need decent people around her. And either through form, injury, lack of quality, it's not been there. But I'd build a team around Tooney, me, 100%. You know, maybe in 2018 I wouldn't have said that, but for me, she's working harder than everyone else. And I'm devastated about LJ, but I look at LJ and think, you're absolutely different class, generational talent like Richard, but who works harder? Who's going to fight to the end? Tooney. I'm not saying that doesn't mean that LJ won't eventually do it and be there and win the Ballon d'Or and do all those things, but you need players. That's why LJ hasn't played at 10. She's played Tooney there, and LJ's playing on the wing, or LJ's playing 9, because you can't trust LJ to track back, not in a horrible way. She's done it a lot better this year, but you can't trust to. And Tooney's taken that 10, really, made it her own. And it's credit to her. Credit to her, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a couple of points also to add to that is, I know we discussed this in the previous section about the strikers not scoring too many goals, and that sometimes plays in the minds of, you know, people like Tooney who, you know, they're so young, they're so enthusiastic that they just want to get in there and you want to try and score. And so when they see other players not being able to get the ball in the back of the net, maybe they think that, okay, maybe let me try it at least. You know, if I get in, then let me try and help the team. It's all about helping the team. And like you mentioned, I know you mentioned Nani as an example, and there are so many other examples of young players who come into teams and who try their best, and, you know, they'll have the skill and they'll have the enthusiasm, but they just may not probably score as many as probably, I think, for Manchester United right now, you're spoiled with the likes of Mason Greenwood, you know, who's scoring at every chance he gets, and he's so young right now. So I can see why you might get frustrated. And like I said, as a Liverpool fan, I can see, I'm in comparisons probably like with Salah, who probably takes a shot from every goddamn angle that he gets. But no, as a 21-year-old, she's got so much of room to improve. And like Natalie mentioned, playing with the likes of Christian Press or Tobin Heath and people like that, it's all about the leaders around you and people who can mold her into becoming a generational talent. And also that also ties in with a manager who can tap into that potential, because you don't want a manager who comes in there and probably benches her for the rest of the season, or plays her sporadically just because she's a 21-year-old. They'll say, okay, maybe experience counts more than someone who's young. So you need someone who's brave enough to play her, to nurture that talent. And I suppose the danger is, because she's such a great talent and because she's been chosen to go to the Olympics, is that somebody in another league or in another big team looks at her and say, maybe we can have her, probably like a Barcelona or a Lyon could look at, say, hey, maybe let's go and get her. If Manchester United have not, taken the initiative to go find a manager by July, August, and players are just wandering around there, might as well just go and poach them from there. And people like Tooney and people like them would love to go and go out and probably venture. They'd love to stay at Manchester United, no doubt about that. But as long as Manchester United gives them what they want, and that is match game and the right facilities and stuff like that. So that's the danger for Manchester United, which is not letting players like this. And I mean, I could see the faces when you were talking about her getting into the Olympics and how proud you were of her because of how far she's come. You don't want players like that to suddenly jump ship because they don't feel valued at the club. And I suppose that's probably, those are my two cents on this matter.
We can spend all night talking about Tooney, but we have still got more topics to go, so we're going to move on. Nat and Jack's topics are very similar, so we'll leave that to the end. But Paddy, what was your topic that you wanted to bring, mate?
Yeah, so I was basically wanted to talk about, because I didn't have the opportunity to talk to either one of you on my podcast about Casey Stoney's sudden resignation, because I remember, I'd gone out for dinner or something, and I came back on Twitter and I see Nat's like multiple tweets saying, what the hell happened? What the hell's happened? And I'm like, okay, what's happened? And then I go on Twitter and I see that she's resigned. It came as a shock to me, because you've been hearing stories about lack of facilities and these bad sort of, whatever bad stories about the club. You've seen that happen to the likes of Birmingham, because Birmingham was the big story at that point of time. Players not being paid and the sort of lack of facilities and all of that. I'm sure you as Manchester United fans would know how the facilities were at that point of time. As an outsider, I didn't think like I mentioned, as a Liverpool fan, I thought Manchester United was sort of the blueprint to go by. But then after reading stories of how the facilities were and how the Glazers were actually treating the players at the club, I was kind of thinking that maybe I was a bit naive to thinking that the Glazers actually cared a lot. Okay, so that kind of backfired on me, and that shame on me. But to kind of see that happen, and I know you met her, I just want to know what your reactions were to her resignation. I know the general consensus on it, but how big of a void is that? And also we mentioned that Casey Stoney is probably the type of person who could have brought about that change that we discussed earlier on, that sort of change in the board level to demand so many things, because you had such a meteoric rise. Now that, do you think is there slight frustration that maybe she should have probably stayed on and fought? Because we know the fans would have been on her side 100%. We saw the protests at Old Trafford. We know how vociferous Manchester United fans are against the Glazers. So had she stayed there, maybe gotten the fans really on board on it, maybe could she have led that? I just wanted to know on your thoughts on that.
So I'll let Zoe and Atano answer this. So Zoe, do you want to have your say on maybe like the reason why she left with the facilities and all this kind of stuff? And then Atanu, you can answer the question, should she have stayed on even longer? So Zoe, do you want to make a start on like the kind of thing that's come out in the press in the last 3 weeks or so?
I was shocked. I was shocked that she resigned, and I'm not gonna lie, I did actually shed a tear. And I think, yeah, the thing for me was it came as a surprise to me about our facilities, to be honest with you. I knew that there was something, we all knew that there was something not right earlier on in the season with things like the amount of injuries that we had, and there was supposedly an inquiry about that, and and then there was all talk of, well, things were different anyway because of COVID and bubbles and all kinds of things like that. But I didn't realize how bad the facilities were, and that did two things to me. It infuriated me because we go and watch these players play, and we all, we've met most of them, and we care about them as people as well as footballers for Manchester United, and we want the best for them. So that infuriated me that they're not getting the correct treatment and the treatment that we can afford. And when you think about Manchester United, it has a history, and it's the. I'm going to offend you here, but it's the best club in England, and I think we should have the best facilities in England as well, and that goes for all our teams. I'm a massive fan of the men's game, the women's game, and the academy as well, and I think they should all be entitled to the same facilities, really. The same level of facilities. As Manchester United, we should want to be the best on the pitch and off the pitch, and for me, it saddened me that Casey had left, and yeah, I did think that she's the kind of person that could have got that change, but she obviously tried and couldn't get it, and it got to breaking point for her, and so yeah, it saddened me, but more than anything, it made me really angry, and I was already not a fan of the Glazers, but it really lit that fire burning a lot brighter then, because I don't think the players and the manager deserved an awful lot better than what they got.
Yeah. I think I saw one of the comments also from, I think Vicky mentioned that probably if, a man manager at Manchester United Women's Football Club could have probably gotten a lot better from the United board, because they're just a bunch of old men up there, and they probably got that sort of attitude. I mean, the men's game isn't... the men's club isn't getting much help either from there. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if you think the same about that.
Well,
yeah.
I was going to say, I could say Nat Smalling. Do you want to come in on it, Nat? It's been discussed.
I think in 2018, I knew Lee wasn't good enough, because you can just look at it. The gym wasn't big enough. I'd heard comments that Lotta said. But I think Emma Sanders has been on our channel, and she sort of said we knew that things weren't right, frozen pitches when they moved, this and that, but I think we just didn't realise how bad it was. I know they're going to say, I know we had Rich on who said COVID and this, and if it wasn't COVID, it wouldn't be that bad, but we were promised the Carrington would be done up, not Carrington, the Cliff, and it didn't happen. So maybe if they put money in when they said they were going to put money in, we'd have had our own training ground, and there would have been no kind of issue with bubble or not good enough pitches, you know what I mean? And yeah, COVID's probably brought things on, exacerbated things, but it's like I said, if they'd stuck to what they said, it's in black and white, they're going to be in their own facilities, and they weren't, they were sharing, and COVID made it worse, and then look at where we are.
I don't want to bring up another topic, but hence the ESL.
Well, yeah. But the thing is, though, I've got a top with Casey on, and she resigned on the Tuesday or something, and the protest was on the Wednesday, and everyone was like, boom, much respect, so much respect. People who I've never seen before, people who aren't even into women's football, just went, much respect. People said she got the balls. She's fronted them, and this, and obviously it puts the new manager in a better position. That's obviously what I know. She even said to John when we went, keep supporting. She doesn't want us to, go a full 180 and throw our season tickets away. She wants us to still do it. I know she's still supporting. But yeah, it's pain. I was crying for weeks. but let's not talk about it.
Atana, do you want to say? I mean, do you think she should have stuck it out, or do you think she made the right decision? I guess she made the right decision for herself, maybe, but for the club, it might be the wrong decision. We'll have to wait and see. What are your thoughts on that one, mate?
Yeah, I think seeing the interview that she gave on the last day after the loss against Leicester, she was in tears. So that was a testament that she didn't want to leave, and she had her heart on United for a long time. But seeing the conditions and how the board or the owners sold fake promises and fake dreams to the manager, I mean, what else can she do? We all know that she's a human being with principles, and this actually, if we think about it, her resigning from this position as the manager of the women's team has actually, brought out that anger in all of the United fans. Yeah, initially it was against after the ESL, it was against the owners because of the men's team. Now Casey resigned, and it is against the owners as a whole and how they are treating the club. And I think, for me personally, that Old Trafford game was just a gimmick, and just trying to calm down everything and everyone, that everything is fine. Putting out a fake picture that we organized a game at Old Trafford, and that's it. We know about how the training pitches were frozen, and that caused a lot of injuries. And at the same time, when we made the shift from LSV to Carrington, no showers provided initially, a 10-minute walk to the washrooms, uh, gyms in the tented facility. So I don't think the Glazers would have, treated the men's team like this, because then it would have become a big issue. And, you know, it just makes a fan angry when you think about it. And after Casey Stoney resigned, I was like, okay, let's see. I was all obviously angry, but at the same time, I thought this is a decision made in the spur of the moment. But after reading the things that actually caused her resignation, I came to know that the issue is quite deeper than we realize. And as Nat said, that the promise was made that the cliff would be developed more, and in the 2018 the promise was made, and now it's 2021, and the pandemic came only after 2020. So I know the Glazers would play the pandemic card, that the pandemic came and we weren't able to develop cliff, but there were two whole seasons between the pandemic and the promise made.
We're going to move on. Last topic, Jack's and Natalie's is a similar. So, Jack, do you want to kind of start it off with what you were talking about on Twitter earlier?
No, because I sent 3 things. So, how about Nat starts it off? Because...
Okay. We was talking about. Okay. Well, yeah. Okay. We can play around that. Come on, Natalie.
Right. Well, you've got to say something different now, Jack. So my topic is just looking at what's happened. This season's over. Casey's gone. New manager comes in. What are we going to do? Where are we going to be next season? Is, like I've said throughout this show, Tooney, we need to still get the best out of Tooney, Leah, Leslie. We're waiting on Jackie. I think she's got one more year going into the next season with 1 year. It's not a good feeling. We need all these players coming in. And I'm seeing the players that I look at. Bunny Shaw, that's one. Going to City maybe, or America. Ingrid Engen going to Barcelona. Even like lesser players, Anna Evergaard, nobody's probably heard of her. And Hannah Benson. They play in the Swedish league, but they are really good, talented players. Man City and Everton are looking at them. And yes, I don't know every player in the whole world, but these are top players. And, John Fry knows what I'm talking about. These are top players, especially Anna Evergaard. The Swedish players are someone that we could get. And I'm surprised that Everton are looking at Juventus players, these top players in the Swedish league, top Norway players. And I'm thinking, Everton going to finish above us. We've had Emma on our show, and she talked about the budgets of Manchester United, and Casey says it all the time, top 3 have a bigger budget than us. I don't mind that in a way, but you would like to think we start to catch up to them, because I can see us on the same level as Arsenal in a way. So why should they have a bigger budget than us? But then she talks about Everton, and Everton spent over £100,000 on Valerie Govan, very good striker, got injured. But that's the kind of striker that you need. She's not a world-class striker, but she's just that level below. I think Russo was a great signing. But for me, I've had these conversations and I think about, but a lot of women's teams are free agents and all this. But there's the people now that I'm looking at, and me and Casey talked about, Sandy Baltimore, she's under contract. If you look at some of the Barcelona players that are on the fringe, they're still under contract. So you still have to put your hand in your pocket and pay a bit of money. And Valerie Govan was under contract. They paid £100,000. That's nowhere near probably what we're paying for anyone. I think we had to pay for maybe Maria, Millie, but it wasn't even probably about 10,000, maybe maybe 20,000, if something like that. You need to be paying 100,000. This kind of money. Willie, Arsenal are a wreck. Vicky, I do agree with you, and it's there. I see it as it's there. The door's open. I mean, some people have talked to me about what about Meads and Nobs and all this. I know this is transfer talk as well, but it is. I'm worried about our aspirations of where we're going to be next year, and this is why it probably links into Jack's topic, because he's talking about expectations or whatever. Apparently, one of your topics, Jack. And so that's just my concern. What's our aspirations? What's our expectations for next year? Like I said, I agree with John a bit. We shouldn't be. We should be top three. We should be top three now. And we should be top three next year. We should be even higher than top three next year. But are we going to struggle for fourth next year? That's what I'm worried about. And I know it sort of links into everything. But yeah, I'm seeing these other teams around us growing, and I'm seeing us sort of stand still. So I can see Paddy sort of. Go on, Jack.
I want Jack to answer, where he thinks we will be next season, because it's I don't think it's as positive as a lot of United fans probably thought going into this season. I think we may have stepped backwards maybe now. But I don't know, Jack, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think a lot will depend upon who's coming in, and that means manager and players, and who's going out. In terms of who's leaving players, because obviously Casey's gone. So yeah, it really depends. It's maybe a bit early. Let's say if things were exactly the way things are right now, where we know obviously Tobin and Kristen are not going to continue, or most likely not going to continue. And I know that obviously there are some players that their contracts are coming up, but still not clear who's coming and who's going. Let's say nothing else changes, new manager comes in. Again, it's a difficult one, because I think a new manager will have new ideas and a different style of play. I know that there was talk a few minutes ago about tears shed for Casey and all that. I am kind of excited in a way. I'm not saying that. I was jumping for joy when Casey left. Of course not. It was a shock. But with that said, I think we've seen 3 seasons under Casey. This has been her first season, full season in the WSL. The style of play has kind of been consistent. It's always been the same kind of 4-2-3-1. We were talking in the first season of the WSL, like Nat mentioned, that this goes back to Tooney, where she'd played very, very well against Leicester and in other games, and she'd still be dropped because Casey would still play Jackie at 10. And that same kind of rigid approach was also on the show for a lot of this season, I think, as well, where there was a kind of school of thought that maybe Kristen, maybe her best position isn't that striker, maybe we could be playing her out on the wing, especially when Leah was injured, especially when Tobin got injured. Maybe you can shift Kristen out to the side. She did that, I think, only in the last game or two. So there's been a lot of times when I've thought, she's not flexible enough, Casey. She has her style of play, and that's also why I think whilst Arsenal, Chelsea, City, they blow away teams sometimes. I'm not saying that they're wow amazing teams. I don't think that they're that far ahead of us. Maybe I'm completely wrong, seeing as Chelsea in the Champions League or were in the Champions League final and all that. But in terms of the head-to-head games, only the City game away really was an eye-opener in terms of, wow, we are very far behind. And that was at a later stage of the season. And, but at least to begin with, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, we were competing on that same kind of level. So I don't think that we're that far behind, but I think that at times you can see by the way that we played under Casey, she had kind of one way, and there wasn't a lot of flexibility within that. And teams knew how to play us by the end of it. You look at the Brighton result, you look at the Reading result, you look at the Leicester result in the Cup. By all means, these are teams that we should be beating. And, they came and they knew how to play us. We didn't really lay a glove on them. And they just chucked long balls in, set pieces, which has been our problem since 2018 as well. There was a thought that Siobhan, maybe when she was replaced with Mary, that Mary would be maybe a bit more commanding in the box. I don't think that's happened. We still concede the same type of goals, and our results are still very similar to what they were in the first season. So I'm excited for a new manager. I want to see new ideas. I want to see new style of play. I want us... I don't understand how teams can go to Reading and put 5 past them like it's nothing, but we struggle each and every time. I mean, even the game that we won there earlier in the season, we struggled. It was like last minute, snatch a goal. So I'm excited for the new manager, and we'll see where it goes. But obviously, a lot counts on who's coming in and who's going.
I think that's a good different way of looking at it. Or not a different way. I think it's the way that we haven't really looked at yet, because I think a lot of us have been like mourning the fact that Casey's left. We haven't really got excited yet about the new manager and the new playing style. I am conscious of time. Jack, if you want to bring in your comment and then your topic, and then if you can kind of finish your show by answering whatever Jack's topic is, and then we'll kind of wrap it up, because we have gone over an hour already. But I'm really grateful that you all come on and you all want to say your own bits. So, Jack, what are your other topics, mate?
Should I choose a different one then?
Yeah, go on.
Go on. Okay. Who would people prefer in terms of next manager? Proven, experienced, international, proven at WSL level, proven at international level? Like, what is the balance in terms of like the what would the preference be? Would you like someone that is maybe WSL experience, like I know that there's a big Carla Ward fan club here, but I don't think that's relevant anymore. Or would we look at international, not necessarily WSL experience, older, younger? Where do we go?
Shall we just go around in a circle then very quickly? So we will have like 30 seconds. I'll start. What type of manager you would like then? I think I'd want someone that's obviously going to be better than Casey, or else it'll be a step backwards. So for me, better than Casey would be someone who's experienced, someone who can match her team ethic, like the team building, that kind of stuff. A bit of experience around Europe, and someone who can also match her pulling power, if not beat her pulling power. So I don't know if there's anyone in the WSL that can probably bring that. So it's probably going to be somewhere across Europe, but I don't know any names because I don't know as many as you guys. But that's kind of what I will be looking at. Nat?
Experienced, but an international manager. I think WSL, not an hour away. It's kind of overrated. I think if we're going to get a new playing style, get someone in that doesn't play WSL don't know. Maria Pry, 10 years coaching in Spain, taking Levante to Champions League, second with Real Madrid, or Gerard Piqué or something like that, who is ex-Lyon. That's who I'd get. He won Lyon, I think, their first, in the whole however many leagues they won, he started it, so he was the one who won the first one all them years ago. So I'd get them. But yeah, that's on you.
Yeah, I think I agree with Nat. I want an experienced manager, an internationally proven manager, and the ex-Lion manager would actually be perfect for us because European experience and that extra push to qualify for the UWCL next season.
Sorry?
Yeah, I want an experienced manager, but I want a good player manager. That's one thing I liked about Casey. She saw the players as people before footballers. I think that's good for the squad that we have, the particular players that we want to keep. And I want someone that has ambition and hasn't got sentimentality, but also, knows the United way and sort of factors that into their own playing style, and thinks about our good academy as well and our youth, and gets a good blend of the two. I want a lot, basically.
And what does our Liverpool fan want from a Man United manager?
Someone worse than Casey. No, but I think there are two things that you need to keep in mind. One is, like I mentioned before, you need a manager who's, first of all, an experienced manager, strong enough to probably demand a lot from the Glazers. And like I mentioned, there's someone who needs to demand that the ecosystem be put right. But on the other hand, knowing the Glazers, that's not going to happen anytime soon. So you need a manager who should be okay with dealing with the issues that are going along with the Glazers. Someone who will still be progressive enough to take the team forward. And when I say forward, at least get to the Champions League. We know, reaching Chelsea and Man City, you've been there for a longer period of time, might be a little longer, but we don't. Yeah, I would definitely not. Yeah, probably on that. Yeah, good one. But yeah, in the sense that you're looking at someone who can deal with the shit that Glazers are going to be putting on you. But at the same time, still progress the team and not quit 2 years down the line saying that, I'm not getting the facilities that I want, because coming in that the Glazers aren't going to give you that in the near future. So you either have to come in at the right time and hope that the Glazers get lost in the next couple of years, and then you're the luckiest manager in the world, or you're going to be someone who kind of says, okay, I know what I'm dealing with, and I'm okay with that.
I think in future what I'll do is I won't give a topic, and I think we just need to do 5 topics because there's so much to talk about, and then we've been going over in 15 minutes. Jack, thank you for coming on. Paddy, nice to meet you in person finally. I know we've spoken on audio, but thank you. Zoe, we'll see you on Monday with Andy O'Nyans and a few others. Tanu, thank you very much for coming back on again. Really appreciate it. Nat, as always, brilliant.
Hit the like. If you're watching later, hit the like, share it, like, share, subscribe.
And that's it. Thank you very much, guys, and we shall see you again soon. Thank you.